There's no surprise that the Indiana Fever looked best tonight when Caitlin Clark was surrounded by players that don't have an ego, surrounded by players that said, I'm going to be MVP of the WNBA this year. You see how easy it is when you just let Caitlin play ball and others follow suit?
What if the most electrifying rookie in sports, the generational talent who single-handedly injected a new level of excitement into an entire league, was actually holding her team back? It sounds absolutely insane, right? But that was the shocking, controversial narrative that began swirling across sports media outlets. Critics and analysts, particularly over at ESPN, started pushing this unbelievable theory that the Indiana Fever were somehow more disciplined, more cohesive, and even more dangerous when Caitlin Clark wasn't on the court. For weeks, this idea gained serious traction, repeated on television and social media, leaving fans utterly confused and forced to confront a terrifying possibility. Maybe the hype was all a lie. Was this phenom actually detrimental to her own team's success? It was a question that demanded an answer, and one game, one performance against a bitter rival would provide the final brutal verdict, silencing the doubters and proving just how wrong they truly were.
It is now a final 99-82. Right here, 29 points in the third quarter, 30 points in the fourth quarter. That might be the best second half of the season, the best fourth quarter of the season. Look at these bench points. 29 bench points tonight. And they withstood an absolute barrage by Jordan Canada, who had 26 points in the first half.
The whispers of discontent weren't just random noise, they were fueled by circumstance. When Caitlin Clark was forced to miss games due to injury, the Indiana Fever managed to string together a couple of wins. For a team that had struggled to find consistency early in the season, these victories achieved without their superstar rookie became Exhibit A for the growing number of critics. Suddenly, the addition by subtraction theory wasn't just a fringe take, it was being amplified on national platforms. Analysts like ESPN's Carolyn Peck didn't just suggest it, they stated it as fact, claiming Indiana was more dangerous when Clark didn't play because, in their eyes, she was supposedly ball dominant. Think about the sheer audacity of that claim, suggesting that the player breaking attendance records, boosting viewership by millions, and captivating the sports world was somehow hindering the very team she elevated. It felt like a deliberate attempt to diminish her impact, a narrative fueled by something beyond just X's and O's. As Clark worked her way back from injury, preparing to step back onto the court against the Atlanta Dream, the pressure wasn't just about winning a game, it was about shattering a narrative. The critics were watching, microphone in hand, practically waiting for her to fail and validate their shocking hot take.
Been an inconsistent ride for Indiana and for Clark as well, who's had to fight through a lot of injuries. But I think the encouraging thing from Cece was the fight that she showed on the floor. Clearly, she's not quite at 100%, still working her way back, hasn't found her three ball yet. But what she did was attack. She used the physicality against the defenders by putting her head down and going to the basket. That opened things up for her playmaking, which of course is another genius aspect of her game. Once that started clicking, the Fever...
Sophie Cunningham, folks, this might have been the best Sophie Cunningham game she's played so far for the Indiana Fever. When she hit those nail-in-the-coffin threes against the Minnesota Lynx, we were already up in that game. Yes, nail-in-the-coffin, awesome. But we were down in the third quarter. We were down 52-47 in the third quarter. And we came back and won. And that started with Sophie Cunningham hitting a big three.
When the game finally arrived, Clark returned to the starting lineup, and for anyone watching casually, it almost felt like the critics might have had a point. This wasn't the Caitlin Clark who routinely hit logo threes and dropped 30 points seemingly at will. Her shot simply wasn't falling. She finished the night with a modest 12 points, shooting a frustrating 5 for 17 from the field, and struggling significantly from beyond the arc. It was, by her own sky-high standards, an off-shooting night. If you were only checking the box score, just looking at the raw numbers, you might have concluded exactly what the doubters were hoping for, that she wasn't impactful, that the team looked clunky, and maybe, just maybe, they were better off without her forced shots. But those people, the ones focused purely on the points column, were missing the real story unfolding on the court. They were missing the subtle brilliance, the hidden domination that transcended mere scoring. It looked like an off night, a disappointment even. But what was happening was far more strategic, far more deadly to the opponent, and completely dismantling the critics' narrative from the inside out.
Didn't I say that they need Caitlin Clark? I mean, come on, guys. See, this is why you don't listen to ESPN. Idiots like Carolyn Peck said they are more dangerous without Caitlin Clark. She should be indicted and go to jail for that comment. That's one of the dumbest comments.
So, the big way they were able to neutralize Caitlin Clark, and I think it was almost an issue with Stephanie White as much as anything, is they were manhandling her. They were manhandling Caitlin Clark early in that game. Like, they had two hands on her. They were fully getting into the we are grabbing her and we don't really care. Like, that was their goal. Their goal was they were out there to maul Caitlin Clark. They had they had absolutely no intention of doing anything other than maul.
The twist was that Clark's true genius in this game wasn't expressed through her scoring output at all. It was revealed through her command of the offense, her vision, and her ability to manipulate the defense without even touching the ball. She was the ultimate floor general, orchestrating the entire game like a maestro. While her points were low, her assist numbers told a different story. A crucial 9 assists, each one a result of her court vision and ability to draw attention. This is where you see the true, often overlooked power of Caitlin Clark, her gravity. The Atlanta Dream coaching staff and players were so utterly terrified of her potential to pull up from anywhere on the court, so determined to prevent a viral three that they threw multiple defenders at her. They chased her relentlessly, denied her space, and warped their entire defensive structure trying to contain her. Their obsession with stopping Clark's scoring was so intense that they inadvertently opened up opportunities everywhere else on the floor. They were so focused on the individual threat that they missed the systemic breakdown they were creating for themselves. Clark wasn't just a player, she was a strategic weapon, and the Dream fell right into her trap.
Let's go right here. Sophie Cunningham. Let's check it out. And she's got the long three way downtown. Boom. Way down, boom. So, real nice all-around performance. Second half was great ball tonight. No doubt about it. But Stephanie White let the team cook in the second.
Hey, you know what? It's about dang time. Let me tell you that. I have my shoot. It's been a second. I just think for the team, you know, we've had a lot of injuries. We've had a lot of movement. When C's playing, it's a whole different team. And when she's back, you know, we got to catch our rhythm. She's a heck of a player, but we got to find ways to get her involved, but keep people hot. But, you know, for me, it finally felt good. It felt good. Like I said, my family's here. My sister's my best friends. And so it just felt good to have my family here. So I thought I should do something.
While the Atlanta Dream defense was completely fixated on stopping Caitlin Clark, sacrificing their own defensive integrity in the process, they inadvertently unleashed the rest of the Indiana Fever. With all eyes, all resources, and all the defensive attention locked onto Clark, her teammates suddenly found themselves with acres of space, open driving lanes, and uncontested shots. This wasn't luck, it was by design. This is why players like Kelsey Mitchell exploded for a game-high 25 points. This is why Aliyah Boston dominated the paint, dropping 19 points and showcasing her own impressive playmaking with 8 assists. Their standout performances weren't happening in spite of Clark's presence, they were happening directly because of it. Clark was drawing the defense, opening up driving lanes for Mitchell, finding Boston on timely rolls, and creating the wide-open looks that allowed the rest of the team to thrive. She wasn't just a teammate, she was the key that unlocked everyone else's potential. This game proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that when Clark is on the floor, she doesn't just make herself better, she elevates the entire team to a level they simply cannot reach without her.
Caitlin be herself. We started playing an up-tempo type style that forced the Atlanta Dream to react to what we were doing. Instead of us trying to counterpunch, Atlanta Dream, they found themselves against the ropes. And there we were, Kelsey Mitchell in the third quarter, slugging away. Sophie Cunningham in the third quarter, slugging away. AB in the fourth quarter. This game, in the second half, we didn't take our foot off the gas. We put our foot on the throat of the Atlanta Dream. We didn't tell Caitlin Clark, whoa there, lassie. No, we said, Caitlin Clark, roam free. Fly like a butterfly. Flap your wings. Spread your wings. And watch the team follow.
Then came the moment that shattered the illusion, the point of no return, where the game and the narrative completely flipped. It was late in the third quarter, the kind of tense, back-and-forth struggle that had defined too many Fever games this season. The score stood at 63-60, with the Atlanta Dream holding a precarious lead and less than 4 minutes left in the frame. The outcome felt uncertain, poised on a knife's edge. This was the moment where the critics would typically point to the struggle, the inconsistency, and whisper, "See, maybe they are better without the chaos Clark creates." But what happened next was nothing short of an annihilation, a masterclass in taking control. Orchestrated by the very player they said hindered the team, the Indiana Fever flipped a switch. They held the Atlanta Dream without a single field goal for the final 3+ minutes of the third quarter. They scored the last 4 points to inch closer, and then, exploding out of the gate in the fourth, they launched an absolutely devastating 11-2 run. In what felt like mere seconds, a tight 3-point deficit had morphed into a commanding 80-67 lead. From that point on, the game was over. The lead never dipped back into single digits. This wasn't just a scoring run, it was a calculated dismantling, a demonstration of what happens when the pieces finally click, and it all started with the unselfish leadership setting the stage.
Who's the best player on the team? Now, they show that they're a quality basketball team without Caitlin Clark, but they're not a championship team without Caitlin Clark. They proved that, okay? So with that said, they need Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark sets her teammates for success, sets better plays, better passing. I guarantee you Caitlin Clark played that game, they would have won. I mean, come on, the matchup would have been.
Sophie Cunningham showed up. This was the kind of game that we've sort of been waiting on from Sophie. Her breakout Indiana Fever performance. The rebounds were huge. By the way, she had, I believe, 7 or 8 rebounds in the first half of this game. All right, before she started knocking down all these.
And with the final buzzer sounding, confirming the 91-84 victory, the verdict was undeniably brutally in. The Indiana Fever are better without Caitlin Clark narrative didn't just take a hit, it was utterly annihilated, blown to pieces by the sheer undeniable evidence of the second half. Consider this, the Fever scored an astounding 59 points in the second half of that game. 59 points. That wasn't just their most productive half of the season, it was tied for their most points in any half in the last 7 seasons. Let that sink in. The offense reached a level not seen in years, and it happened with Caitlin Clark on the floor, distributing, demanding attention, and enabling her teammates. Where were the critics now? The ones who were so loud just days before. The ones who confidently proclaimed she was holding the team back. They were nowhere to be found, swallowed by the resounding silence that follows undeniable proof. There was nothing left for them to say. Their theory had been exposed as utter nonsense, dismantled possession by the very player they sought to diminish. The truth, as it turned out, was the exact opposite of their hot takes.
An aggressive Caitlin Clark frees up every single player for constant wide open shots. I don't care about this grit and grind basketball where you have to take difficult shots. Why would you choose to take difficult shots when Caitlin forces the team to run? Everyone runs, everyone moves, everyone eats when Caitlin Clark is playing like this. Everyone does. Caitlin doesn't even need to. I don't care if Caitlin Clark averages 8 and 8 a game. It doesn't matter. This is fun. This is fun to watch. And eventually the shot's going to start falling. Eventually it's going to start falling. Because you don't forget how...
I think we like to call her the female version of Steph Curry because the way she gets hot from downtown, it's must-see TV. But she's always played more like Trae Young. If you really watched her game, you would notice. And it's not a bad thing. I can see the comments now, oh, bro, what do you... L-take? Because people don't know how Trae Young plays. But it's play style, right? These are two players who dominate on the ball, not off the ball. Very much on the ball. And make a ton of plays with not only their shooting range, but their passing skills, right? Like Trae Young can shoot from the logo and score the basketball, just like Caitlin, but he also has an assist title, like Caitlin. But the issue with their games is that it leaves them liable for a game or a stretch where they can just not hit a jump shot.
This game wasn't just another notch in the win column. It was a statement, a turning point, a powerful declaration to the rest of the league. It proved definitively that Caitlin Clark's value isn't confined to her highlight reel three-pointers or her individual scoring numbers. Her true genius, her revolutionary impact, lies in her ability to be the ultimate catalyst, the player whose presence alone elevates an entire franchise. She doesn't just make shots, she makes everyone around her better. She creates opportunities where none existed before, simply by commanding the defense's undivided attention. When you watched Kelsey Mitchell slicing through the lane for 25 points, when you saw Aliyah Boston dominating down low and dropping 8 assists, when you witnessed the entire team flowing with an offensive rhythm unseen earlier in the season, you realize it wasn't happening despite Clark. It was happening because of her. She wasn't the obstacle, she was the engine. This performance wasn't just a win, it was a chilling preview of what this team can become. The doubters can retreat into the shadows, scrambling to find a new angle, but their primary narrative is dead. Caitlin Clark is not holding the Indiana Fever back. She is the key unlocking their potential. This game against the Dream, particularly that dominant second half, showcased a team finally starting to understand how to play with their unique superstar, how to leverage her gravity, and how to feed off her unselfishness. As Clark gets healthier, as the team chemistry continues to build with her on the floor consistently, and as those signature deep shots inevitably start falling with more regularity, the scoring numbers will climb. But more importantly, the team's overall efficiency, their ability to generate wide-open looks, and their capacity to string together dominant stretches will only increase. This wasn't a peak, it was a glimpse. It was the start of something terrifying for their opponents. The Caitlin Clark Revenge Tour is officially underway, a direct response to every doubt, every criticism, every unfair narrative. And if this demolition of the Atlanta Dream is any indication, the rest of the WNBA better get comfortable being uncomfortable, because this is just the beginning of a new era, one where Clark and the Fever are ready to prove exactly why she's that girl, and why her impact is unlike anything we've ever seen.